Future Redeemed is on the horizon. The story DLC for Xenoblade Chronicles 3 recently had its new trailer shadow released, surprising us all, blinding us with a sucker punch. Knees are weak, yeah? Legs trembling. We're on the ropes. The ref is starting the count. I need to lean on all of your support, your help, your dedication to the cause of predicting a video game story. So I sent out the call to arms and asked you, the audience, you, the viewer, to come up with your wildest, wackiest fan theories for the events of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Connected. Not Future Connected, Future Redeemed. Told you before that I would mess that up. And we are here now to make a final stand. And for me to take up your theories and to defend them with my all. So let's get right on into it, shall we? We start off with Lady Alexei, who says Mallows or someone with his Logos crystal will appear at some point. With Glimmer having the Pneuma crystal and A being whatever A is, Mallows is missing out if he doesn't make some sort of appearance, so here's the actual take for you to defend. This whole expansion is a story being told to the main game Ouroboros crew by an old man in a cloak with a habit for laughing. When the story is done, Senna or Mia will comment on how depressing the ending is, where the man will then look up at so forcefully and knocks his cloak hood back, revealing him to be a much older Mallows, core crystal visible now, and he just looks straight at the camera and bellows, "Indeed!" Look, I know I have to defend these takes, but at the same time, I also just want this one to be true, cause it would be funny. Not to actually defend how Mallows could reappear. Well, he's not technically dead. Like, yes, we saw him quote-unquote die at the end of Xenoblade 2. Remember how we talked to Pneuma, like, right after that, though? Normally, when you die, you don't get to haunt someone else in the next 5 minutes and ask them how their day's been. Or at least to my knowledge, who knows? Mallows here is offering a pretty good freaking rebuttal to that. And also, remember the reason they needed Pneuma to begin with, or one of the reasons they needed Pneuma. They wanted her so that Mallows could heal himself, heal his core crystal, with the data that Pneuma's core crystal had of Mallows and Logos, to repair it from the Aegis War's damage to him. So, the Pneuma core crystal, and assumedly the Ontos core crystal, would also have his data. So theoretically, he could come back, with, especially within the confines of Ionios, through a reuse of his data. Because it would be kind of funny to have two core crystals, ignore the fact Xenoblade 2 exists, and just have the third out to dry. I think it's possible that one of the mechanisms that's also just controlling Origin could be the Trinity Core processor, and that they banked on the idea that when the worlds started to rejoin and Origin formed and connected with itself, that they could leave it to the three Trinity processors to do the rest and to activate the functions that Origin needed to have done to recreate the worlds and send them on their way. You'd imagine that'd be a lot of processing power, and having three processing cores that were constructed to work with the conduit probably be your best freaking bet. So they have multiple ways they could reintroduce Mallows if they wanted to. Now, let's move on to the next one. Carito000 here says Alvis might have done what Mithra did, create a new consciousness after Rex and Shulk taught him a thing or three, and he lies dormant inside A. It's possible. I have two theories as to who the hell A is. Either that, and it's like a Pyra Mithra situation, which we know can happen because, you know, Pyra Mithra did it. And through whatever he experiences in that one scene, he decides, you know what, I'm just going to revert to within myself, create this new personality, A, and have them control me, at least for a time. The other one was that just Alvis splits apart. I think the one where he gets splits apart was a theory I saw on Twitter. But I thought another way he could go about this is if he died, bestowed his core crystal to, like, Melia, because that's what they say that's one of the lines of dialogue in the trailer. Bestow the core crystal to, say, Melia, and have him pass it along, and then whenever he's reawoken, A pops out. That's also possible, but I can easily see something along these lines of Alvis experienced some kind of trauma or some kind of situation which would compel him to create a new consciousness and have that consciousness take control. And we know that alongside the new consciousness, you can also create a new body for them. Again, Pyra and Mithra already did this. So we know it can happen within the lore. Whether it can happen in a post-conduit world remains to be seen. But there's something to be said about this one. Now, one of my personal favorites as we move on to Matt Hulu, who posits at the end of the DLC, Matthew will grow old sailing the seas. After he dies, he becomes Mobius, and since M is already taken, his letter of the alphabet will be based on his captain named Triton. They both have ponytails and fight with their fists, so I don't think this is too unlikely. Now, funnily enough, this would kind of explain why Soul Hacker is such a unique class, if the class and the character associated with it was so important. Could also serve to recontextualize a lot of that one Ascension quest that Triton had, where he's just trying to retrace his steps. If that was all metaphor and he got it all wrong in his head, it was actually some sort of event or series of events that took place in the DLC, that'd be kind of funny to realize and to witness that quest again. Look, I'm a big Triton fan personally, and honestly, at some points, you have to throw the rules of storytelling aside. You have to throw all your preconceived notions aside, put them all aside in a nice little box, tuck them away somewhere, and just lean into Rule of Cool. And this is one of those times for me. We move on to Mega Evie, who says that Z, or Zed, was a good guy at the start. Yeah, I had to defend this one. Okay. There's a logic to be had, where at the last minute, they realize something fundamentally wrong about Origin, and that it would not work whatsoever. Maybe Zed realized this, or a few of the scientists that were working on Origin, who were doing last-minute repairs or checks, realized, hey, there's something wrong about this, we need to fix this. We cannot allow this to go on, we will just all die. But they're running out of time, and somehow Zed was born to delay the time, and the reason he's one of his, like, side objectives, or side quests that he was performing, while within Origin, was repairing the damage, and then eventually just lost the will to ever reactivate Origin, and decided, you know what? Let's stay in the Endless Now. That, to me, is really one of the only ways I can see Zed ever being a good guy at the start. They could also try and play some perspective business here, where maybe Zed didn't want everybody to be stuck in this perpetual war, but X and Y did, and then the other Mobius did, so he just went along with it because it would preserve the Endless Now. There could be a story there. Don't know how much I believe it, but if I had to give a defense for it, that's what I would go. Or at least where I would go. Now, sticking with the Zed theme, we move on over to Commander Nile, who posits that Zed is Captain Padre. You're done! Captain Padre got memed on and clowned on for pretty much the entirety of Xenoblade 2, always fulfilling the role of the jokester, someone that people were meant to bounce off of, until he found success in a post-All-Rest world, and then upon learning of the fusing of the worlds and the activation of Origin, and the chance that it could all go away, he decided to grip on and hang on to the one moment of happiness he ever had, where he was respected, admired, and happy. And he became Zed to throw the world and thrust it into the Endless Now. And the reason that everyone was caught up in a perpetual war is because as a captain, that's all he ever knew, is what he was comfortable with. Leading people out to battle, to die and have those troops be replaced by new ones, to just send out and die all over again. Perhaps that is the story of Captain Padre. And then in the DLC, at the very end of it all, when only one question remains, and Zed, the power of Mobius is back, as the Liberators on the heel, he looks deep into their eyes, like a phantom in the night, and just says one phrase. Two simple little words, all that needed, and Rex and everyone knew who exactly he was. You're done! We move on to Sir Sailor Star, who theorizes that Mia will appear at some point in the DLC instead of Xenoblade Chronicles 4, which is essentially my freaking theory, so, I mean, kind of easy for me to defend. Just watch any of my Xenoblade 4 theory videos, or my Xenoblade 3 DLC theory video from before the trailer dropped. Guess I got that video in right on time, because I do think we'll get a post-credits scene after the events of the DLC have come and gone, and as the final theme is playing, talking about doors and all that, we'll do a flash forward after the events of Origin, after the events of Xenoblade 3, when all the characters went back to the new, recreated worlds, and we'll get the Mio perspective of that scene with Noah, where she will probably hear the off-seeing tune, and one of two things will probably happen. Either she walks off and disappears just like Noah, or she turns around and then one of two things could happen. She stares into the camera, eyes start to beam, and she mouths into the camera, "It's good to see you," or "Welcome back," or "I remember you," or WH Omegalol, or the camera pans over and shows Noah there, in All-Rest, not where he's supposed to be continued in Xenoblade Chronicles 4. That is how I think the DLC will end. because it was very interesting to me how we only got the Noah side of things in the base game. Why not show Mia's perspective? Were you trying to frame the entire story through Noah's eyes, and that we would have to say goodbye to the cast of characters from all the rest, and that we would not know what their fate or where they would end up, which is why you only showed Noah? Or did you plan to show us the Mio side of things with this DLC? I kinda lean towards the latter there. BoysVut45 says, I haven't played any of the other Xenoblade games, so I don't know if it's even possible, but you want it wild, so I'm going all in. That's what we like to see. That's what we like to hear. Give me! Future Redeemed somehow connects every Xeno game from Gears to Blade and everything in between. I got you. And I don't even need to use Future Redeemed for this. I can just go back to Xenoblade 2. Remember at the very end, obviously not you, Vud, because you said you haven't played the other games, but in Xenoblade 2, at the very end, Klaus was talking about the conduit, and that when he used it, it opened up portals to all these different worlds, infinite possibilities. And the second he said infinite, it's a wrap, yeah? Goku is canonical to Xenoblade. Bloodborne, Elden Ring, God of War, Spyro the Dragon, Zelda, Mario, Halo, Master Chief, Ura, a bit of Crash Bandicoot, and also Xeno Saga, Xenogears, Xenoblade X, all those other things. The moment they said infinity, the moment he said infinite worlds, if that is to be believed, theoretically it's possible. Just within this giant multiverse of infinite realms and infinite possibilities. And what they could do is within Origin, in the DLC, they could have us exploring around maybe the file room and then just drop some casual hints that would only be able to be paired up with, say, Xeno Saga or Xenogears, maybe name drop Faye or Cosmos or whatever, and go with it that way, because we know Origin houses the data in light of both of these worlds. Theoretically, it could also have more, depending upon what they got out of the conduit, and if the conduit was able to house information all of itself. We also don't know where the Fargate leads. Wink wink. Xeno asks, I've mentioned this before and I'll mention it again. The girl that points the glimmer with her sword is very likely House Reed's Liberatrix and Shala and Ryan's daughter. For one, she looks very similar to Shala in eye color and also skin color, but she's also using orange accents on her attire, and the sword she carries has Ryan's scrapdriver markings, orange crosses. It is very likely why she's not bound by blood to Shulk, but he was still treated like a daughter. She's his best friend's daughter. Funnily enough, this one isn't even a joke defense for me. I kind of just believe this. Because we know we have at least 3 founders unaccounted for right now. That's Cassini, Reed, and the 7th founder. 7th founder is probably going to end up being A, or Riku, or Nia. I'd lean towards A myself. Which means we still need 2 more founders for Cassini and Reed, and a lot of the other founders have some relation to the old casts. So just having Reed and Cassini not have any connection to them whatsoever seems like it would be an odd choice. But if Reed's was Ryan and Shala's daughter, it would make a lot of sense as to why Shulk took her under his wing and treats her like a daughter despite not being bound by blood. Could also be similar in vein to what's going on with the Cassini founder. Maybe it's Mithra's kid, and they're holding that one as a surprise. Which would also explain why the Cassini statue didn't articulate whether or not Cassini was related to Rex or not. But it did for Shulk. Let's move on to Bombo Alpha, who says A is named that way because she was the Mobius A that is never in base game, and she defected to Founder's side instead of following Zed. It would explain why she's named A. They could have named her anything else, but they specifically chose A. That's not by coincidence, in my opinion. Unless they're trying to gear up for like a monumental fake out, I don't get why you would call her A and not have her be a Mobius at some point. Because we know not all Mobius are allied with Zed. Triton turns tail, or turns coat. We know it's possible. We know that the Mobius have their own independent thoughts and their own reasons for being. It's possible that Alvis originally was Mobius A, and that A inherited the name but chose to defect against Zed. I think that's very possible. And we ended off with another Alvis theory from Philip over here. Alvis is killing everyone so their souls can escape through the fog gates through another dimension away from annihilation events, or the prison that will be Ionios. Future Redeemed is where we will be introduced to the different realms of realities brought in Xeno Saga Law. Rex and Shulk have no idea about that stuff, so they ally with Zed, and Zed plays the party like a fiddle. So in a way, Shulk and Rex help start the Endless Now. Ontos means reality in ancient Greek, so for real? With touch on different realities. That is one possibility for the Fargate, because we only have seen things come through fog gates. We never saw something go from our side into a fog gate, if that makes sense. We saw things come out of it. We never saw what happens if you go into it. And if Alvis knows what's on the other side, the apocalypse, it's possible he could just view it as a safer place entirely than Ionios, or sticking in the path of these two worlds colliding. So just shove all the souls on through, wait for Origin to possibly activate, and then send them on back. Honestly, I can see the logic there, if that is the direction that they're going with. And maybe for some reason, he can't tell the others what his plan is, for insert plot reason here. And the only problem with trying to bring in the Xeno Saga Law is just like licensing issues, but if they somehow manage to work that out, and assuming that's not an issue here, it is, but assuming it's not, that would definitely be one way to bring that old lore back into the canon. And Zed taking on the role of a master manipulator, or the guy holding the puppet strings with Rex and Shulk, could also work, especially if they're so focused on trying to bring Shulk's friend back. Phew. 10 theories that I have defended in this gauntlet. Yeah, this boss rush mode. So what did you all think? Leave a comment down below with your thoughts, your opinions on what theory you think is the most probable of happening. Even if none of them could happen, what do you think is the most probable of the lot? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your opinions. And if you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. You know I'll be covering the DLC extensively on this channel. So stay tuned, leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more, and hit the bell icon to be notified when I upload in the future. I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe out there, everybody. Have a great day. I'll see you all again next time. Go play some video games if you can. Bye-bye, everybody.